Speak on the Show 2022, episode 15, Saturday morning, baby. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. It's about that time. Y'all ready? Let's get into this. Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I am your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there? 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, every Saturday morning. Speak On the Show. Let's get these formalities out of the way. rwcoolins.com, that's the website. You can go there, follow, share. Also on YouTube, R.W. Coolins, that's the YouTube page. Go there, share it out to everybody. Start following on YouTube. If you're only following on Facebook, you need to get over to YouTube as well. Follow, share. Do what you do with the other shows you may watch, other things you may do. Let's do that. R.W. Coolins. Also, we're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube this morning. And after the show, you can also go and download on Spreaker.com and Apple iTunes if you want to just listen to the audio of the show. Man, I'm excited this morning. I'm excited. We got some birthdays. We got some good mornings coming in already. OT, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Brian Hoodie, good morning. Appreciate the support. I think I cut OTs out. Good morning, OT. Appreciate your support, bro. Let me tell y'all something. If you haven't followed OT, go follow OT. Also, he's doing big things. Got a lot of interviews that have been going on over there on the OT Radio Network. So go there, start following him on YouTube as well, on the platform. And we got something coming up we're going to be talking about a little later on. I'm not going to share it right now. We got some things in the works. So good morning, OT. Appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's see, where was we at? Call in number 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is if you call in or if you make a comment, say what you mean what you say. You know, we come in as friends, we leave as family. This is the Speak On It Show family. Once you're in, you're in. You're a part of the family. That's what we do here on the Speak On It Show. Now, yesterday, I want to say it was yesterday. Yesterday was the birthday of one of our great leaders for the African-American Black community, Malcolm X. Malcolm X would have been 97 years old. He was taken away from us at the age of 39. Now, a lot of people look back, and Malcolm X is he's looked at differently now than he was at that time because of by any means necessary and different things like that. But what I would say about Malcolm X, from what I go back, and I've listened to a lot of his speeches and a lot of his, when he goes to Berkeley, I listened to one the other day, as a matter of fact, where he went to Berkeley and he sat down, they were talking about racism and different things like that. But I sit back and I listen to Malcolm X, and a lot of the things that Malcolm X was speaking at the time that he was here on this earth are some of the same things we're dealing with to this day. And we'll get into some of that a little later on, but I want to send a happy birthday out to Malcolm X in heaven, because one of the things that I also noticed is that we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., as we should, because of his impact, what he did while he was here during the civil rights movement and so on and so forth. We don't put Malcolm X in that same light in most cases. Some do, some don't. Let me just be real. But he was just as important to the movement as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I think sometimes he gets overlooked because of his presentation of what was being said at the time. They thought he was radical, all those different things. But one thing that he said, and I wrote this quote down for a reason, because we're going to get into this a little later on. One of the quotes he said, and I don't like to break these people down by quotes and everything, because they had a whole total package of who they were and what they represented and what they stood for. But this one quote jumps out at me, and we're going to get into this as we go. But the quote says this: the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the minds of the masses. And this is by Malcolm X. I don't know the year that he said that, but if you really think about it, that's a true statement. Because the media is able to manipulate, the media is able to put out what they want to put out without in-depth understanding or in-depth facts, if they want to put it out there. And I'm going to get into this a little later, and that's why I brought this up. And it's so it bleeds into what we're going to talk about today. So that's Malcolm X. Malcolm X. Raymond Hunter, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support, bro. Welcome back. Welcome back. Lynn Sewell, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. But we're going to get into that. But Malcolm X, happy birthday. 97 years old he would have been. And then, you know, and every time we have these great leaders of ours, birthdays come around, I always think, where would we be if they hadn't been taken away from us so early? Where would we be if we still had their voices in what we're trying to accomplish now? Where would we be? How far along would we be? Would things be different? Just food for thought. Just food for thought. Just to give you something to think about early this Saturday morning. And let's go ahead and get into this, because it's an unscripted Saturday, y'all. Let's go. So June 9th, insurrection hearings are going to be publicized. The insurrection committee, they're going to be up. They're going to lay out, supposedly going to lay it all out on exactly what happened on January 6th and leading up to January 6th. And there's still these drips coming out about who, what, when, where, and why. Yesterday, I see Rudy Giuliani testified in front of the committee for about 9 hours. By video, not in person, but by video. But he did 9 hours worth. You know, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, all these people have testified there, but you still got these politicians, these senators and Republicans that were subpoenaed that haven't come forward to testify or to sit in front of the committee to find out what they knew, what all went on as far as the insurrection. But June 9th, they're going to put this puzzle together that we all been wanting to know, and how it works together and what went on leading up to and actually the day of the insurrection. Now, we also found out, now, seen this last night late, and I didn't really get into it, but there's a lawyer named Eastman. His last name is Eastman, and he was subpoenaed to show all the paperwork that he has. And he's been trying to use this executive privilege, saying that he was a lawyer for Donald Trump and he has executive privilege, blah, 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 and everything. But what he did yesterday or the day before was he came out and said that he has handwritten notes from Donald Trump telling him how to go about for them to overturn the election that we all voted on, which is why Joe Biden's in office right now. How this is all going to play out, I don't know. I'm waiting until June 9th, because I want to sit down and I want to watch, and trust and believe me when I tell you, I'm going to sit and watch it all. I'm going to sit and watch it all because I think it's something that we all need to pay attention to, as you always hear me say, because this insurrection, as I said, was a trial run. It was a trial run. And for me, we need to be paying attention to who these people are, what's going on, and what part they played in the insurrection on that day. Raymond Hunter, can you imagine Malcolm X either on social media? No, I can't, bro. I can't. Not on social media. And you bring up a good point, because that's something I didn't think about. But think about that. The voice that he had at the time, that he was able to touch so many people throughout this United States and around the world. If he had a platform, or if he was still alive today to use the platform, the social media platform, you bring up a good point. How much impact would he have compared to what he already had? Technology and great minds. That's a hell of a mix. Hell of a mix. Thank you, Raymond Hunter. So on this insurrection, as I was saying, it's coming up. It's coming up. And with that, what we had to realize is there's going to be things that people are going to try to debunk, but these people have called people in to testify. They found things. And here's the other thing I seen this week about the insurrection. I'm going to leave this alone. But they said they had pictures of what was going on in the White House during the insurrection. They have pictures of what Donald Trump's family, who all the people was around him, were doing during this insurrection that was going on at the Capitol. They also say now different stuff is coming out about Clarence Thomas's wife. More information, more emails, more this, more that. I'm not going to dig in all that. June 9th is around the corner. We got about 2 weeks. I want to sit back and I want to listen, and I'm going to be reporting to y'all what I come out with. What comes out. If in case you don't get the chance to watch it or whatever, just tune in every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going to give it to you from my point of view, but you can go back and read it anyway. But that's what we're going to do here on Speak on the Show. But that's what's on the horizon. That's what's coming up. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting on how this is going to turn out. Who's going to be held accountable, if there's any accountability. But we'll go from there and we'll see. So let's get into this. So this week, well, everybody knows. Let's go here. There's a shortage on baby formula. A shortage on baby formula. And they're blaming the president. Everything is being blamed on President Joe Biden. Gas prices, formula, the economy, inflation, stock market's going down, the war in Ukraine. Everything is being blamed on the president of the United States right now. And let's just be honest. He plays a part, but he doesn't play the big. The people that legislate are the ones that are approving the money to go to Ukraine, which is Congress and the Senate. Let's just be honest. So this week, Marjorie Taylor Greene, sometimes that you hear people talk and you realize that they're just talking to hear themselves talk because anything they say is not true fact or doesn't make sense or it doesn't pass the smell test, as they say. But this week, there was a bill that passed with 414 bipartisan votes for support in the House, and it would lessen restrictions implemented by the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, the WIC program. Let's just be real about it, the WIC program, which limits the types of formulas those on the federal benefit program can buy. Around half of all infant formulas sold in the United States is purchased using WIC benefits. I want you to remember that now. Most of the formula, around half of the formula, of the amount of formula purchased, is through the WIC program. Okay. The WIC program limits the types of formula that they can buy. Even if they're on the WIC program, there's still only certain types of formula they can buy. So Marjorie Taylor Greene says this. She described WIC as a key problem for the nationwide shortage of the formula. She said because she thinks it will make it harder for those not using its benefits to purchase formulas. So what she's saying is the government program is the largest customer for baby formula in the United States of America, Greene said. And now Joe Biden and his administration, their solution is making WIC an even bigger customer when in reality, many of the parents that can't buy baby formula for their baby, they're not on the WIC program. This is what she said. She whose name should not be spoken. Yeah, but I got to do it for context, bro. I got to do it for context. I appreciate that, but I got to do it for context. She also said the WIC program is making it more difficult for them to buy baby formula because if you're on WIC, if you're someone that needs to be on that government assistance, you're allowed to buy as much baby formula as you want to with your WIC vouchers, and they're increasing that for those parents, Greene added. But if you're not on WIC, you're limited on how many cans of baby formula you're allowed to buy. She also added that while WIC is doing a good job taking care of the poorest in our country and need federal assistance, it is middle-class families who are getting hammered again, which is why she voted against the Access to Baby Formula Act. So let's break this down, because what she said is BS. It's total BS. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the WIC program has stipulations on what type of formula people on the WIC program can buy. Cut and dry. It's always been that way. It's never changed. But with this shortage, guess where the major shortage is? The major shortage is on the brands that the people on WIC can buy. So guess what? In this bill, it says that the WIC program is going to be able to have a waiver during this time of the shortage for people that are on WIC to buy different brands of formula, not just the brands that they were supposed to buy before the shortage. So what she's basically trying to do is flip the script and say she didn't vote for it because people on WIC can get all the formula they need, but if you're not on WIC, you can only buy a certain amount. She's lying. She's lying. And why she would want to lie about formula, I have no clue. But it just shows the attack that some of these politicians have on those that, can't or need that government assistance. It's the attack on them because of the baby formula shortage. They don't make the baby formula. They purchase the baby formula. The shortage is due to FDA regulations that shut down a production plant because there were things found that killed 2 children. Has nothing to do with the people buying the formula. But her mindset and what she wants people to hear with this media, going through the media, as we say, as Malcolm X says so eloquently, by her doing this, she gives people who don't pay attention the mindset that anybody that's on WIC is given free reign to do whatever they want. And if you're not on WIC, you're going to come up short. She's lying. The basis of it is this. If you're on WIC, now you can buy different types of formula. You can buy whatever formula is available until the shortage is taken care of. Now they're flying formula in from overseas. I think they caught a military plane supposed to go pick up so many cases or so much amount of formula from some other country or whatever and bring it here. Hey, we got to do what we have to do. But this propaganda here that she's thrown out there totally erodes the fact of what's going on and the truth. She wants people, middle class people, to look at these people that are on WIC like they're taking something from them. That's not what the case is. Now, there's people out here that are struggling. There's people out here saying, hey, if you go in the store, even if you ain't got kids, you go in the store, hey, pick up some of that formula. Pick up this type of formula because we need it. Okay, that's fine. It's about survival at this point. Children need the formula. Now, Governor Abbott Labs is the one that had to shut down. The shortage is in large part driven by a recall recently issued by Abbott Labs, America's chief manufacturer of baby food, whose products serve 90% of families using WIC, according to the Agriculture Department's Food and Nutrition Service. According to the roll call, the Department of Agriculture has urged states to have maximum flexibility for families on WIC, encouraging states to allow recipients to purchase different brands and sizes of formula. However, that order is legal only because the U.S. is still in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis, meaning that once the public emergency declaration is lifted, Congress would have to pass a bill providing WIC recipients with more formula options. Shalom, good morning, appreciate support. So, Matt Gaetz chimed in to help her out too, and also somebody named Biggs. Representative Andy Biggs, Republican of Arizona. They all are saying the same thing. They're trying to get people to think that if you're on WIC, you got the upper hand on getting what you need. But if you're middle class and you're going out to buy, the reason it's not there is because all the WIC recipients are taking all of it, and by purchasing all of it, it's not how it works. It's not how it works. And even on the WIC program, you can only purchase so much. These people, certain people who get on here and lie, just outright lie about what the systems or the programs do and try to hold people accountable and say they're taking advantage of the system. There are people that do. Let's just be real. But in this case, not the case. Not the case. She needs to let it go. Last week, I think it was last week, I talked about Pastor Jamal Bryant, where he talked about Kevin Samuels, GoFundMe page. Then he came out and apologized. He apologized after the fact, came back and said, it was a bootleg apology. He didn't apologize to him. He apologized on how he said what he said. So whether it was a true apology, you be the judge. I'm just saying he came back and apologized after the fact. But this week, there's another pastor. Well, Nancy Pelosi, who was a staunch Catholic, as she portrays to be, she was told by the Archbishop of San Francisco that she is barred. Watch this now. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, was told by the Archbishop of San Francisco that she is barred from receiving communion over her support for abortion rights, the Archdiocese said in a letter released Friday. Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone said he in the letter that he had previously asked Pelosi to publicly repudiate your advocacy for abortion rights, or else refrain from referring to your Catholic faith in public and receiving Holy Communion, or face the consequence of being denied access to the right. Then he said, as you have not publicly repudiated your position on abortion and continue to refer to your Catholic faith in justifying your position and to receive Holy Communion, that time has now come, the Archbishop said. I am hereby notifying you that you are not to represent yourself for Holy Communion, and should you do so, you are not to be admitted to Holy Communion until such time as you publicly repudiate your advocacy for the legitimacy of abortion and confess and receive absolution of this grave sin in the sacrament of penance. Now, though that's a lot that I just read. But let's just break it down into simple terms. Because Nancy Pelosi is okay with abortion rights. Well, she stands for abortion rights, which is a woman's right to choose. This archbishop told her that because I told you before through a letter that I wanted you to repudiate and stop speaking on the fact that you support that and your Catholic religion in the same sentence, now that you haven't done that, you can't take communion no more until you repudiate it. And you should also stop saying that you're a Christian in public. Or that you're Catholic faith, excuse me, that you have Catholic faith. Is he right? Is he wrong? Where does our right to choose and have an opinion and do whatever we want to do come into play, where we have pastors now getting involved in the normal everyday interactions of what's going on and questioning people's faith about what they do and how they serve their God? Just a question. Raymond Hunter, what happened to separation between church and state? What happened when she leaves office? That's what I'm saying. Perfect point. You're exactly right. Because here's my thing. Unless you go through that whole congregation and ask them where they stand on the abortion issue, you may be giving someone the same right that you're trying to take away from Nancy Pelosi. Because last time I checked, and I haven't been to church in a while, I ain't gonna lie. Hey, Jackson, good morning. Good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. I haven't been to church in a while. But I know about communion. I've taken communion. Many of us have partaken in communion. And my biggest question would be, when you're taking communion, that's a conversation and a point that you are dealing with, where you're at with your faith and how you feel about God and what's going on with God when you choose to take communion. I guess for me, from the outside looking in, as William Hunter said, separating church and state, what is truly going on now? Where is this archbishop diocese standing on the firm fact of his religion, or is he trying to sway into how politics works? Because here's the thing. The one thing about the church, and let's get into this. Churches are tax exempt. They're a tax exempt organization. And the reason they always do that is because they want to keep church and state separated. They say politics should not dictate religion, should not have anything to do with religion and how you practice your religion. Now, the other part of it is you have a lot of people that are in politics that tend to always speak on their religious faith. They have no problem with that. That's who they are as individuals. They always say one nation under God. You talk about this country. But this country has not always been godly. It's just me. If you look at the past and look at the history, this nation has not always been godly. But now you have pastors, as in what Jamal Bryant did last week, what this pastor did, what Archbishop Diocese did this week. And you start asking yourself, is this some of the reasons why people turn away from the church? I didn't say it. I've heard it. I'm just putting it out there. Is this some of the reason or some of the feedings into why people have kind of separated themselves from the church? I'm not saying this case covers all, but there's certain situations. I'm not going to get into how you should feel, what you should do, or whether you should take communion, anything. That's a personal thing. But I will say this: when and if the church starts having the ushers and the deacons at the door and start asking questions about how you feel about abortion, or how you feel about the death penalty, or how you feel about homosexuality, I'm going down that rabbit hole, that whole long list of things that are questioned. When they start having people standing at the church doors asking those questions to separate who should be able to get in and who shouldn't, that's when we're going to have a serious problem. This, not a problem as far as I'm concerned, because the bottom line is with her, if she's, she can go to another church. She don't have to go to his church. Who's he to tell her she can't go take communion? Who is he? He ain't God. He's a representative of God's word. I said it. He's not God. He's a representative of God's word. And God's words is not in there where it says that you're supposed to tell people they can't take communion because you don't agree with where they stand. Just me. Just me. But there's another pastor. I think he's in Tennessee. This dude, I was going to show the video, but I said I'm not even going to take time today. But his name's Pastor Locke. And he was in the pulpit going off. And everything that he was going off about dealt with politics. It dealt with the Democrats, in his words, Democrats are devils. He said Democrats are devils. He also said in his long, drawn out, loud dissertation that if you think that was an insurrection, you haven't seen an insurrection. Because God said, now these ain't my words, these are his, so don't y'all hold this against me. He said, God said, I am not going to go there. Pull it up. Just put in Pastor Locke and watch the theatrics. But I'll ask this question because, I don't like to get in comparisons. I don't like to get into the black and white issue. Well, I do. I talk about the black and white issue, but because we got a lot to talk about today. But if Pastor Locke, because a lot of you haven't heard about Pastor Locke, but I want you to take into account what the media has shown you about Pastor Locke, and then change Pastor Locke to Pastor Collins. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not a pastor. I'm just saying, let it be Pastor Collins. Someone that looks like Mr. Collins, R.W. Coolins. And let him stand up on that pulpit and spew what this pastor chose to spew. Whether that pastor was a person of color, Jewish, Muslim, you see where I'm going, right? If any person other than Pastor Locke would have stood in that pulpit and said anything that resembles what Pastor Locke said, they would shut him down. It would be all over the news. He would be considered a terrorist. He would hate this country. So on and so forth would be the narrative because of how he said what he said and the fact that he said it from the pulpit. But many of y'all haven't heard about Pastor Locke. But when you get a chance, go to YouTube. Type in Pastor Locke. Look at some of his sermons. I just did a glance, just so I know what I'm talking about. You'd be surprised what's going on in some of these pulpits around the United States of America. All around what is not about God, not strictly just about what's going on in the world, but division by what political party that you choose politically, not religiously. This is what's going on in this United States of America. We have people in the pulpit trying to dictate how their congregation should feel about political parties, political people, the political process, voting, all those things. And they're trying to encourage their congregation to look one way and one way only. Pay attention. False prophets. I said it. False prophets. Then we go to this. An assignment depicting Barack Obama, the nation's first black president, next to monkeys and other animals, prompted a private school in Michigan to place a teacher on leave. The incident occurred at the Roper School, which advertised itself as a school for gifted students from throughout the region. NBC affiliate WDIV of Detroit reported the teacher, who was not named, asked students in an assignment, which of the following are primates? Let me go back for a minute. An assignment depicting Barack Obama, the nation's first black president, next to monkeys and other animals. And the teacher asked the student, which of the following are primates? This is in a classroom in a school in Michigan with an unnamed teacher. They didn't name the teacher who did the assignment. But they have a picture of our president, one of the presidents of this United States, on a picture with monkeys and other animals. And the question is, which of these are primates? That's not a mistake. That's not done and happened by chance. This was well thought out because of all the African-American men in this United States of America that you could have chose to put on that to ask that question. You chose the one and only African-American, biracial, however you want to look at it, president of this United States to put on there as a lesson to a classroom. Here's a response from the school. On behalf of Roper School's leadership, we want to acknowledge the disturbing racial offense contained in an assignment with an upper school class last week. The choice to use this piece of curriculum was completely inconsistent with our school's philosophy and mission, and we sincerely apologize for its use and the harm it has caused. While the teacher has taken responsibility and admits the mistake of not properly vetting the resource, we know that that is not enough, and she has been placed on administrative leave until further notice, the school said in a statement. Carolyn Lett is the director of diversity for the school. Lett told WDFI she spoke to the teacher. When I saw it, I couldn't believe it, Lett said, explaining she was trying to understand if the teacher depicted Obama next to monkeys and animals on purpose. But right away, I had a reaction like, it's so wrong. I can't understand it. Let me go back and see what she said again. She said, explaining she was trying to understand if the teacher depicted Obama next to monkeys and animals on purpose. You know, it was on purpose. This is where my problem comes in, because when we see this racism actually in our face, we still give these people, and when I say we as a country, we as a people all across this United States, we give people the benefit of the doubt that they didn't do it knowingly or they didn't do it on purpose. You can't tell me that you just so happen to have in any curriculum a picture of a bunch of animals and monkeys, and Barack Obama's face happens to be on the same curriculum piece of paper when you're talking about what is a primate. Which one of these is a primate? That don't pass the smell test for me to know, was it done by mistake or on purpose? Come on, man. Come on. Now we know why all curriculum should be approved by authorities. But here's the question. They want to approve the curriculum when it comes to what they consider critical race theory. They want to remove books that talk about the history of slavery in this country and the plight of the African American man and woman in this country. So they can go through the library and pull all these books out. They can go into the books and read paragraph by paragraph what's right and what's wrong, what they don't want in, because they don't want their children to feel like they're the ones that are responsible for what happened all these years ago. But at the same time, you got teachers making up curriculum that shows that racism still exists in the minds of the people who are distributing the curriculum. But critical race theory, which speaks facts, not opinions, but facts about what went on, to include the 1619 Project, which includes facts, we don't want to talk about that. But we can have a teacher put something like this in a classroom amongst children to influence their mindsets on thinking that the president of this United States at one time is equal to a primate or can be mistaken as a primate, because that's the only human being that you see on this page amongst animals. Let added of the teacher. This is what the teacher said. She had her biology hat on, but didn't realize the sensitivity and awareness she should have had culturally. She had her biology hat on, but didn't realize the sensitivity and awareness she should have had culturally. The school says 31% of students and faculty are people of color. Its students come from dozens of Metro Detroit communities, and 41% of its families receive tuition assistance. Why is that necessary? Why is it necessary to identify that? How many receive tuition assistance? How many students are of color? Why is that important when the main focus of what happened is the discrimination and the downtrodden plight of putting African American man, just take the president out of the African American man, on a picture with some damn monkeys and animals for you to decipher as a child which ones are the primates. Where do they do that at? Obviously in Detroit, as well as other places, but we haven't heard about them yet because the media chooses not to let us know, as Malcolm X said. Just keep going. You want to talk about racism? Let's take it there. We talk about these children are innocent. Let's take it there. Community members in Palm City, Florida, expressed their anger at a school board meeting Tuesday night after a picture of 6 middle school students, each holding up a letter to spell out a racial slur, circulated on social media. 6 students holding up letters to spell out a racial slur. Let's add that up. 6 letters. Y'all know what it means. Count it on your fingers if you don't know what else to do. Count it on your fingers what you think it is. Let me just give you a hint. It's with ER, not an A. It's with ER, not an A. Earlier Tuesday, the superintendent of the Martin County School District, John D. Millay, confirmed the offensive photo was authentic. In the photo, each of the students is holding up a 2-foot-tall letter. One letter appears to be designed like a watermelon. Another is deep red. At the school board meeting, a woman who says she has grandkids at the school, Hidden Oaks Middle, said the students involved should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The R on the end is blood. Now, that just tell you what it is. The R on the end of that 6-letter word is in blood. How do I know these children were not sitting at home thinking about coming to school with a mass murder on these children? She turned her attention to the school board. You all will sweep it under the rug. That's not happening on my watch, she said. You're going to hear it until you get some results. You sit in those seats too damn comfortable for me. Then someone stated, racism is not a mental issue. Keep that in mind. Racism is something that is taught. It is embedded in a person, she told the board. But there's no racism. No racism. None at all. None. The district had completed their investigation on Thursday. The district had completed their investigation to determine no staff members were involved in the photo, though the letters were made in class. No staff was involved in the photo, but the letters were made in class. Who's over top of the classroom? Who's paying attention to what's going on in their damn classroom for nobody to see what they were doing? The students involved will be disciplined according to the district code of conduct. We are deeply aware of the hurt and pain this photograph has caused our community, especially our Black American residents and students. As we have said previously, this incident is in complete opposition to our values and the ideals that we instill in our students. So these 6 kids, I'm not going to call them, well, they ain't going to call them 6 kids. These 6 racists, let's just call it what it is. These 6 racists took the time to make 2 foot? Let me make sure I got it right now. I don't want to say nothing wrong. 2 foot tall letters. 2 foot tall. I can't get it all. 2 foot tall letters spelling out. You know what it's spelled out. With the R, not with the ER, not with the A. Took a photo, posted on social media. The school knows nothing about it. Faculty knows nothing about it. But kids will be kids, right? Anybody say? Kids will be kids. I got one more. Let me give it to you. Brian Hoodie. Oh, Faye Jackson. Just think of your height. You will get it. Whatever. I'm taller than 2 foot. Brian Hoodie. These seeds of racism are planted early in kids. Exactly. And it's always been said, but nobody wants to receive that. Nobody wants to receive that this is what's happening. Angela and her husband, Mike, weren't ready when their daughter showed them a disturbing social media post Thursday night. They say the post shows their daughter's Elisa Niguel high school classmate holding a racist prom invite saying, and I quote, "If you went to prom with me, it would take my breath away." Next to a photo, you guessed it, of George Floyd. Let me read that again. I don't think y'all captured what I'm putting down today. If you went to prom with me, it would take my breath away. With a picture of George Floyd beside it. This is a young white male asking a young biracial female to go to prom with this. It had a Black Lives fist up on it and a picture of George Floyd at that point. And I was like, are you serious? They're making this a joke, said the father. Whose daughter she attends the school. Their daughter's biracial and also going to Elisa Niguel's prom this weekend, and they don't want the boy involved to be there. So you invite a young lady, or felt comfortable. Let me just say this. You felt comfortable enough to try to invite a young lady to go to prom, and you decide to make a poster board up talking about if you went to prom, me, it would take my breath away, and then you put a picture of George Floyd and a Black Lives fist on this poster board and thought it was okay. Who are the parents? Whew. Raymond Hunter, the N-word incarnate does not really exist. It's a social construct to delegitimize the mistreatment of underclass. Think about it when we were there in Africa and during the boat ride. What were we? The N-word only began to exist here. Yes, true. However, and I'll just add this caveat on there. That word, over time, we have allowed to hold a lot of power. And it's been able to hold a lot of power, not only because of in the text and the context of what it was used during slavery, but even in the context of what our rappers tried to say that they took it as a term of endearment and tried to flip it by dropping the ER and adding the A. The basis of what I look at it is that the word has power. By our reaction to it, it gains more power. But at the same time, we have to look at it. And I've always said this, some of our ancestors who were hung from trees, lynched, whatever you want to think about back in the day, that was the last word they ever heard themselves called. Not by their name, but the N word. When you look at these things, these are just examples of what I've just talked about today. These are the ones that the media has chose to identify. I want you to think about everything that the media doesn't know about, that happens daily, that we never hear about. But there's somebody right now, somewhere, dealing with a racial event per se. Not because of something they did, not because of what, but because of who they are and what they look like. And not even because of who they are, but just because of what they look like. And that N word will be thrown out there so eloquently and so freely in that process to try to delegitimize who that individual is just because of how they look. OT, society makes it comfortable enough for them to say it and do it. But let's go to the big one. 10 people. 13 total affected. Well, I'm not going to say 13 totally affected. 10 killed, 3 injured by a young 18-year-old white supremacist. Let's just call it what it is. They chose to go to a black neighborhood, African-American neighborhood, over 200 miles away from where he lives, did a reconnaissance the day before, and then went back the next day to execute what his plan was on those 13 people, which would have been more if he had his way. It says in this article that I read, it said the white teenager who would have been seen as a grown-ass man had he been black. Let me repeat that one time. I'm sorry, Ma, I know you don't like me cursing, but this is what the article says. The white teenager who would have been seen as a grown-ass man had he been black entered the parking lot of a neighborhood grocery store, parked his car, and began opening fire on innocent civilians. 3 people would lose their lives before terrorist Peyton Gendron entered the Tops grocery store, the sole big box store for miles that fed the community's food, dessert. As if shooting 4 people wasn't enough to satisfy his severe anti-black appetite, he entered the Tops and continued his massacre. Gendron streamed live on Twitch's social media platform so the white mob could virtually live out their long-lusted fantasy of unprovoked vigilantism against black bodies. Hunter, why is he a white supremacist? A white terrorist? He streamed this live for all to see who follow him. He streamed it live for all to see. I seen a picture of the gun. He had Black Lives Matter or something on there. He had here's your reparations. He had Kyle Rittenhouse's name on there, which Brian Hoodie, I see you had a comment about him. I think that young killer would try to do a Kyle Rittenhouse defense. Watch this. Yeah, he will, of course. And why is he also not charged with domestic terrorism too? That's the question I was going to get to. I'm glad you brought that up because it is an act of terror, no matter how you look at it. It also says in here, a white civilian is seen in the video begging for his life on the ground while in a fetal position on the stream. He lets out a shriek that only a person whose eyes see death could. Gendron pointing his gun at the defenseless man, apologizes, and continues hunting black victims with the N-word etched on the nose of his AR-15 with inscribed writings paying homage to Mother Emanuel AME church shooter Dylan Ruth and others. Aisle after aisle, Gendron strategically points his gun at each of his black victims' faces and pulls the trigger repeatedly. Also etched onto his gun, here's your reparations, buck status broken, and BLM mobbed. I'm not going to go too much further into that. We all know the story. We all know what happened. We all know who was responsible by pulling the trigger. But let's talk about the people that are responsible for the mindset that he has, who's instilling this mindset in a lot of people. White supremacy is alive and well. White nationalism is alive and well. And you've heard me say it on this show before, and I'll say it again. The FBI, the CIA have identified the biggest threat to the democracy of this country is white nationalism and white supremacy. And what have they done to stop it? See, I see all these reports, and you hear me report. I reported on Black Lives Matter, the people that are owed to Black Lives Matter, and those who were taking money from Black Lives Matter, and this kind of stuff. And I report that stuff. And the people who have a problem with the whole Black Lives Matter movement are very, very silent when things like this happen with this young, I'm going to say young, 18-year-old white supremacist. And what I will tell you is, if this young 18-year-old white supremacist feels comfortable enough to do reconnaissance in an African-American black community and go in a grocery store and just start shooting people because of how they look, don't you ever think that anywhere you go, you're safe because of how you look. I say that because here's the thing. White nationalism, white supremacy has been going on since the inception of this country. I don't care what nobody says. White nationalism, white supremacy is the impact of what slavery was all about. Control, power, and it's going on in this country, and it will continue to go on in this country. Why? Because the ones that are in charge that should be trying to diminish what's going on are part of the problem. Because they're silent about the things that are going on with this movement. They thought Charlottesville was just something that happened. Jews will not replace us. This, what do they call it? I'm trying to remember because I wrote this down. I got Tucker Carlson who says all these things on his show, and I'm not even going to bring his name up again. But this, I don't know, great replacement theory, this white replacement theory. Yes, sir, Raymond Hunter, Tucker Carlson. I was getting there. But Tucker Carlson, Ingram, I can't remember her first name, don't care to know her first name. The ones on Fox News who have been putting this in the mainstream media, as they say, over and over again about we in this immigration process and all the different things that are going on with immigration and things at the border is trying to replace the white population in this country. And in this article I read, this is not just happening now. This goes back to a book that was written. Elements of replacement theory have been around a long time. The term was popularized by French writer Renaud Camus with his 2011 essay, Le Grand Remplacement, which posited white Europeans were being replaced by Muslim immigration. This is not just a local thing in the United States of America. This is something that is being said in all this world, where they have this mentality that there's a great replacement, that the Jews and the immigration is trying to eliminate the white population. And because of this white nationalism and this white supremacy is only going to do one thing, and that's grow. It's already big, but it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. And then you have politicians who have this mentality of this white nationalism, of this white supremacy, that are running for office. And when they get into office, this is when they get in there and they try to overturn. Think about the Voting Rights Act for a minute. When is the last time that we've had the Voting Rights Act Voting Rights Act be supplanted as a fact in this country. No, they had to vote on it over and over again. They got to keep changing things over and over again. White nationalism, white supremacy is the reason why this last election was called a fraud, because they realized that because most people in this country choose to go Democrat because of Republican mentality being so drastic, that most of the people that migrate to this country become Democrat because they don't agree with the Republican policies. And the Republican policies are all about white nationalism, white supremacy. You can get mad if you want, if that's what you choose to do, because that's who you decide to vote for. But if you really want to find out the truth, start reading in text what's going on. Start looking at the people and how they look, the ones that are involved in this white nationalism, white supremacy movement. And then you tell me that the Republican Party is not the biggest proponent of these problems. Now, I don't say this just because. What I'm saying is the fact of look at it in a broad scope. I'm not saying that all Democrats don't have some type of racism within their ranks as well. I'm not saying that. But the biggest proponents of this movement stand with the Republican Party. They identify themselves as being Republicans. And if you want to just take the party affiliation out of it, look at the policies that have been implemented when Democrats are in charge and Republicans are in charge. Look at the people you deal with on a daily basis on what their beliefs are and their understandings are about immigration, about who you are. They may like you because they know you, but anybody around you that they don't know that looks like you, they're not accepting. Now, that's a broad paintbrush to stroke, but I'm going to stroke it this morning. Because at the end of the day, what you find out is there are people who like you because they know you. But the other ones that look like you, they can't stand. Because there's this impression, there's this mindset, just like I just talked about with this picture of Barack Obama on a picture in a classroom about some damn primates. When you have people with the mentality who are teaching and educating school children that they feel comfortable enough to do that, that tells you everything you need to know. When you got 18-year-old kids walking around with AR-15s walking and surveying an African-American Black community and feel comfortable enough to go into a grocery store and shoot 13 people and be able to stand there and take off his body armor when the police have guns drawn on him and ne'er a shot was fired at him by the police officers, that tells you everything you need to know. Everything. But we get too comfortable to give them the benefit of the doubt that, as they say with the police officers in the George Floyd incident, there was only a bad apple. That's one bad apple. Well, damn it, the whole damn tree is bad now. Down to the roots. Raymond Hunter. They know that geographically we are not in the European part of the world. We are in the region native to Mayans and Incas. Their numbers are huge and organically will inhabit most of their region of the world. You cannot keep them out. No, you can't. No, you can't. And see, here's the part of when you get into the geographic part. We always talk about immigration. They talk about migration. They talk about people wanting to come here because of freedoms and everything like that. Certain people don't want everybody and anybody to be able to have the freedoms that they have. They want to dictate what freedoms you have. Case in point, why are they so hell-bent on saying an election was rigged when there's been nothing that shows that there was that much fraud that would have overturned the outcome of an election, a free and fair election? These are where the water gets muddy for me. The water gets muddy for me, not in the sense of the racism is alive and well, but in the sense of they think we don't see it and they think we're not supposed to speak up about it. And then when you do speak up about it, they try to flip the script and then they say, oh, you're a race baiter. Well, you're a racist. And those out there that are silent during this time, those who consider themselves to be my friends, let's just go here. Those that consider to be my friends that are not people of color, that see these things happening and tend to overlook the fact that I could have been in that grocery store. How would you have felt then? Would you have compassion for everyone that was shot, including me, or just me because you know me? Don't give me all this, oh, let's pray for the people in Buffalo and all that. We're tired of all this. We need to pray for the people in Buffalo. We need to pray for the people in South Carolina. We need to send up prayers and blessings. That's all we hear over and over and over again. But the same acts keep happening, not because they're trying to prevent them, because they're allowing it to happen. And the reason they're allowing it to happen is because most of the people that are involved in this white supremacy, white nationalism, are the people that are in charge of making the policies, or the people in charge of the policing, the people in charge of everything that goes on in this country. Some are embedded in those factions. And until you start weeding that out, or we start taking control of our own destiny in these pockets of politics, in these pockets of policing. But wait a minute, we can't get into those pockets because we're put out before we get in. And then it goes back to the point of when we do get in, what happens is we tend to call the people that get in Uncle Tom or a sellout and all that, but not knowing that they may be in there trying to make a change. But because we start giving them all these labels, they tend to go to the other side because they don't feel they have allies through us. Let that sink in for a minute. Those that may be trying to infiltrate those bad pockets, they may be in there to do a good thing, but because they're being so vilified by their own people, sometimes they turn bad only because it's easier to go along with it than to fight you who's calling them out of their name. I'm not saying it's right, but it happens. It happens. So miss me with all this. Pray for Buffalo, pray for South Carolina. Oh, it's a shame what they did to that young man. The George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, all these different things that people of non-color want to get on board with while it's convenient, while it's in the mainstream media. Anybody who has listened to anything I've said today about these different instances of the prom invitation, what happened in the school, the WIC program misperceptions or lies, let's just call it what it is. Anybody who's listened to that today and still thinks that racism does not exist in this country, you're fooling yourself. And you're not fooling yourself. What you are is you're being biased to the fact that it does happen. See, we all have biases. We all have things that we tend to overlook. We all have things that we tend to pay more attention to. But your biases should not make you blind to facts. Your biases should not let you see things like this and dismiss it because it doesn't happen to you. Your biases should not allow you to see injustice done to somebody who looks like me, and because you don't know them, you're okay with it. But as soon as it happens to somebody you know that may be me, now you're in an uproar because you know what type of person I am because you've been around me. But because you don't know that person, you've never been around them, you just brush it off. These things are happening. These things will continue to happen. And as they always say, and we don't pay much attention to it, but now is the time we have to pay attention. Elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. Be mindful. And I'll continue to say that. Be mindful. These elections are important. These people that are being put into office are important because some of these people that are being put into office now are driving that, eliminate that, whatever that theory is that they have now. But you hear them talking about critical race theory, but you don't hear them talking about that elimination theory. You don't hear that. You don't hear that at all. I got a little fired up. That's where we're at. We're going a little bit over. Let's get into this. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul is the year 2022. We're taking it one moment at a time, 1,440 moments, minutes in a day. Enjoy each moment for what it has to offer. Today, mind, body, and soul, no quote whatsoever. Today is a statement. I'm just doing a morale check. I want to check on you. You know, you've heard me come on here after mass shootings like that happened in Buffalo, and I always say it's okay not to be okay. You heard me talk about the different things of, we got to do this, let's do a morale check on each other. Let's reach out to each other. Make sure our mental capacity is okay. Make sure we're doing all right. Because what we see, as I mentioned the other day, what we see, we take in. We digest these things. What we hear, we digest these things. And the mental capacity of what we're dealing with right now, a lot of times we chalk it up to the fact that we're paying more attention now because we're a lot more mature, we're a lot more studious in what's going on, and we're a lot more aware. But being aware, being studious, and all the things you can think about what we're doing right now, sometimes we need everybody to check on each other. We need to check on each other and make sure we're doing all right, in spite of what's going on around us. We can have conversations about what went on in the past, what's going on here. How you doing about what's going on right now? How do you feel about what's happening? Are you okay? That's something that we need to get back to doing. That's something that we need to continue to do. And the one thing I will tell you is this: we need to check on each other. We need to check on our parents, check on our brothers and sisters. But the main ones we need to be checking on are our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews. We need to be doing morale checks. We need to make sure they're all right. Because see, as children, we all know, we've all been children. As children, you taking a lot of this stuff, but what you're taking in, you truly don't understand. A lot of children won't understand what was wrong with that picture that Barack Obama was on, unless it's explained to them what's wrong. A lot of them won't understand the extent of what happened in Buffalo because all they see is another mass shooting. They don't see the movement behind the shooting. A lot of them won't understand the reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about people on WIC being able to take advantage of a system when that's not the truth of what's being said. Children will not understand it unless you take the time to sit down and explain it to them. And I know a lot of parents are out there, a lot of grandparents say, well, some things children should not know. This is true. You don't have to go to the deepest crevices of what it's all about. But you need to make your children aware. Because the thing is, unawareness causes them to be out in this world freely, thinking that everything is fine, thinking they don't have a care in the world. And then it confronts them right in their face. And unbeknownst to them, they have no clue. They have no understanding why. That's where we come in. We have to make them aware, not aware to the fact that they should be scared, but aware to the fact that these things are happening around them. And they need to be able, just like and I'm gonna go to a different level here. Just like we tell children, you tell me, you feel comfortable enough to tell me if someone touches you where they're not supposed to touch you. You feel comfortable enough to tell me if someone tries to do something to you that they shouldn't do to you. We need to be having that same discussion when it comes to how they're being treated in this world right now. I don't care if it's a teacher, a police officer, or a damn family member, because you got a lot, let's just be real. You have a lot of interracial relationships. They have a lot of interracial, biracial children right now that can be being treated unfairly by members of that family because they don't agree with how they were conceived into this world. Make your children aware. Give them the information to be able to do what they need to do. We think that they can't handle it, but if they can sit down and work an iPad and know more about a computer than you and know how to get into all these different apps and all this kind of stuff, then they're able to digest what you're going to tell them when it comes to this racism, the lies in the media, all the different things. And I'm not telling you, you got to overwhelm them with it, but you need to make them aware. This is all a part of checking in on somebody's morale, doing that morale check. Make sure your children are all right. Make sure your parents are all right. Make sure your brothers and sisters are all right. Make sure your friends are all right. Hell, make sure you all right. It's a rough time right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world that we can get consumed about, but we still got to keep our mental intact. Pay close attention. Pay close attention. Do that morale check. Call somebody today. I always tell y'all that. Call somebody today. Check on them. Check on them. Just say, I'm calling to do with morale check, man. You all right? You know, how did that what happened in Buffalo? How did it affect you, man? You all right with that? Because sometimes what we realize is we don't talk about things because we don't want to get into someone having or giving us their opinion. But sometimes their opinion tells you exactly how they feel about the situation. You know why? Because we hold so many things in about our past experiences that when things like this happen, our past experience that we kind of submerged, they start bubbling to the surface again. And we have nobody to talk to about it. Do a morale check today. Check on your friends, check on your family, check on anybody you may think of. It's that time. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I went over today, but hey, hopefully you got some information out of this. As I always say, you know, I'm not trying to put this out there of this is wrong, this is bad, this is it. I'm giving you exactly what's going on through the media and in my opinion. Some people agree with my opinion, some won't. But at the end of the day, if I can get you to think differently, not change your mind, but look at things differently than you did before you turned this on this morning, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. If I cause you to go and start reading some of the things I talked about, doing some research to see exactly because I'm just giving you the surface of it, but giving you information for you to go back and research it for yourself so you can get a better understanding of exactly what happened. So you can come to a conclusion on how you feel about it. Then I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It's called Speak On It, the Speak On It show. It's here for me to speak on what's going on and for you to decipher it and come to the conclusion that you want after it's all said and done. I'm not the end all to be all. I'm just a messenger. Receive the message, not only because of who it's coming from, but what it's saying. That's all I'm saying. I appreciate everybody tuning in. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up. It's one of them days, y'all. Love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely keep your faith in God. I'll holler at y'all next week, and I'm out. Peace. Be safe. Check on your family, check on your friends, check on everybody. I'll holler. Peace.